going on, Raw Dealers? It's Azure Strife. I am back. Sorry for the really long hiatus. Life's been kind of kicking me around and going through a lot, but been doing a lot with Raw Deal, just kind of on my off time. But I wanted to get back to doing videos for you guys. And I did a poll on our Discord, and um, honestly, I don't know why I was even surprised that our chairman of the board, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, won the poll to be the next deck that I do. Um, Vince is really good because he can catch a lot of opponents off guard and not ready for some of the effects, mainly one effect that he has. Um, but this deck originally, when I built it, I was like, I'm not sure what I want to do with it. And we were like, well, what about doing like foreign objects? Because he does get some ECW support. Um, and then very quickly, this deck turned into a sponge deck, and it's a really good one if it can get established because it can also like sponge a lot of damage and then blow your opponent out in their ring area, which is really an insane effect. So Vince is a 7-4, so he's respectable. He's the only chairman in the game. I wish he was a GM just for the fact that he could get around the GM no step ability, no step restriction. Um, but I understand that he gets some benefits of not being a GM because he doesn't have the people that target GMs. Um, he gets to pack Raw and SmackDown cards. Not as relevant in this deck, but it is pretty good because it lets him pack like cards like King and then Atomic Knee Drop or something like that. Well, not Atomic Knee Drop, but you get the point. Um, so his cards that have no chance in hell are setups, and they ignore the plate when played from opponent's hand text. Doesn't really matter when you're running the throwback no chance in hell, but can be relevant. But you cannot play a maneuver unless it's a Fortitude 0 or a foreign object, and your opponent can't play Vince cards. So that's why you go like the foreign object route of I can only play foreign object or 0 Fortitude maneuvers. Um, this is the card that makes him really strong. So remember, he pays your salary. You get to search for Don't Cross the Boss and put it in your ringside, which is really good for the throwback No Chance in Hell. And then your fortitude rating is considered to be less than your opponent's. Your opponent can never have lower fortitude than you, which there are so many cards in this game that look for lower fortitude. Graceful as a cow on ice, turning everything upside down, um, drawing a blank. So many superstars that are like when you have less fortitude, um, you can never be undermined. You can never be backlashed. You can never, be susceptible to these cards. And you can use this in an offensive way, which is really cool. So we'll get into that in a bit. Profit of McMahonism. So this is one makes you immune to backstage shenanigans. You get to look at your opponent's backlash deck, and if you find McMahonism the allegiance, you put it into their ring, and he can't play another allegiance. When you look for McMahonism, you get to look at 2 additional cards, which is cool because the McMahons actually do something special with McMahonism that other people don't get to do. And when your opponent looks for McMahonism, he has to overturn the same number of cards when he looks. So if you go up against the McMahonism deck with Profit of McMahonism, you're just going to be churning through their deck really quick. And then the Extreme Chairman, um, it's really just giving him access to ECW support. Um, his foreign objects and Vince McMahon cards are not fan favorite, cheater, or raw, which is great um, if you want to run both his fan favorite and his cheater card. Um, and then not being raw or smack or not being raw, I don't think has that much of an importance. Um, but I think the genetic jackhammer might have something different there. And then during your turn, you can hide it to search for 2 non-unique foreign objects or 1 non-superstar specific unique foreign object and put it in your hand. It's an all right hide effect. You're really only packing this so that you can pack House That Hardcore Built and Extreme Rules Match. So House That Hardcore Built, you take no damage from your opponent's reversals, non-unique reversals to your foreign objects, and your foreign objects are -4 fortitude. And your cards with ECW in the title don't take up a slot in your pre-match. Just an all-around good support card for the ECW guys. Protection for your foreign objects is really nice. Hometown hero, because we want to make sure we get out our venue, so we'll take the -2 if we have to. Pulled some strings doesn't really need to be revealed very often because we do play a manager, and we actually play a manager that we fear, and our opponent's not allowed to play it. So this isn't as relevant, but I do have it in the deck just in case. Don't reveal this if you have to play your venue or your manager. Um, so I'll maybe play this if I know I'm going against an old school cage match, or something like that. Um, but yeah. And then we're packing the standard 5th, 10th signing appearance, autograph session, and signature. We're going to reveal them all because there's no reason not to. Our opponent can't shenanigans us. Um, so we're fine with that. So going into our pre-match, I've laid them out in the order that I try to play them in. So first off, we are playing McMahonism, because as I said, the McMahons actually get to do something special with this that other people don't get to do, and that's that they get to do this during their draw segment. So most players have to do it outside of their draw segment, and what it does is I'm going to use a magic term, it allows you to scry before you draw cards. I think I talked about this in the Kevin Owens video. That's a really powerful effect in Raw Deal, because blind draws off the top of the deck can be feast or famine, but now you get to kind of cycle, look at them, see which ones you want, see which ones you don't, and you get to look at an additional 2 cards because of Prophet of McMahonism. So getting to do this during your draw segment is really nice. This also opens up a card in the arsenal, which is a really strong card as well. Rochester, New York is our venue. This is when I mentioned that this deck turned into a sponge deck. When I added Rochester, it immediately became a sponge deck. And Vince has a non-unique overturn reversal, so we want to just keep cycling that. So you get to discard a card, or no, you don't discard it. You put a card from your hand on top of your arsenal, and then if it's successful, you shuffle a card from your ringside pile into your arsenal. So even if the ace gets reversed, it's good because you still can stack on top of your deck expecting it to be reversed, and then you'll have that reversal to flip for your opponent's turn. And when you're playing a deck with as many aces as this deck has, you want to just play into all of your opponent's ace reversals as quickly as possible. And that's kind of a philosophy of, with aces, you either have no aces or you have so many that your opponent can't reverse them all. And that's kind of a really strong philosophy to go into, because so many decks I see, it's like one ace and it's like, I'm afraid to ace it in case they reverse it. It's like, well, you just have to lean into it. If it's an important ace, you have to do it. You just have to go into it. Um, Chairman's Power Walk to the Ring. This is one of Vince's virtual cards. Um, so it can be played during any pre-match phase. So we want to play this during the feud phase because it has an important effect of you get to begin the events phase. And you get to choose who resolves their pre-match first. So not only do you get to play first event, you get to choose who resolves first, even if you didn't go first. Um, and your next Vince McMahon specific card played is +2 pre-match. Gains +2 pre-match capacity. You remember who pays my salary cannot be blanked, which is important because it doesn't have that text. So they can't blank your backstage. When you're Vince McMahon, search your arsenal for the biggest grapefruits, put it in your hand, and shuffle your arsenal. It's an action later deck on in the deck, and we'll get into that. So this is important because we are packing. Sorry, I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Because we're packing the Undisputed Title, as I'll show here. It's very important we get this, so we get it no matter what. Packing Extreme Rules match. So it can only be packed if you can pack an ECW card in your backstage. All players ignore the can only be played text on foreign object cards played from hand, which is nice. And then once during any player's turn, you can either overturn 5 or discard 2 to pick up a foreign object. So it's like Chicago Street Fight, only it's a heavier costed ace. It does give you an additional cost option to overturn, but it also ignores your can only be played text on foreign objects, which is really, really good. We're playing Managed by Vince McMahon. So at the end of the pre-match phase, so we're playing Managed by Vince. I apologize. My might cut out, so I might repeat myself on this. We're playing Managed by Vince, which is a great manager. Our opponent's not allowed to play it, which is great. So at the end of the pre-match phase, you either get to blank a stip, you get to pick two. Blank a stip, kill a title belt, pick up 2 cards, or get +2 mid-match. More often than not, I'm picking the +2 mid-match and killing a belt, because I don't have a lot of ways to get cards out of my deck, out of my hand for the pickup. But I'll pick that option if I have to. He also has another card later on that blanks the counter to this, and it's why I've actually said that Vince is immune to Hell in a Cell, which is great. So Undisputed Title, um, important. So your opponent doesn't get to play Break You, which is really good because it's an Azareth deck and I play all 12 pre-match. And your superstar specific cards don't take up pre-match or mid-match slots. So um, the Chairman's Power Walk to the Ring doesn't take up a slot. It gives your next Vince McMahon specific +2 pre-match, so it won't take up a slot, and gives you +2 pre-match. So that's really good. Um, and then the first family of professional wrestling is all of your cards with McMahon in the title um, increase your pre-match by 1. So the Vince McMahon cards don't take up slots. Your McMahon cards, so McMahonism, um, managed by Vince McMahon, backed by Mr. McMahon, all give +1 pre-match. It's just you get to play a lot of pre-match. Vince McMahon's Kiss My Ass Club. This card is really cool because it presents your opponent a very interesting choice. So your opponent's managed by Eric Bischoff as blank. So that's what gets you out of the cell. You blank the cell with managed by Mr. McMahon, and they can't blank managed by managed by Vince McMahon with Eric Bischoff. At the end of the pre-match phase, he may randomly discard 2 cards. If he does not, draw up to 2 cards, or put 1 card from ringside in your hand. If he does not, before each of your opponent's draw segments, he overturns one. Before each of your draw segments, he overturns 1 card. So, it gives you a no way out effect. Most players don't want to randomly discard 2 cards. So you're going to get that overturn effect, which is really nice for what we're trying to do. And then your 0 tolerance, Kiss My Magnificent Ass, can't be reversed by elbow to the face. It's fine because it's a 0 damage maneuver, but I've honestly been thinking about taking that card out anyway. But it is what it is. ECW One Night Stand. When any player successfully plays a foreign object maneuver, he may choose to draw 1, shuffle 1, or have his opponent discard 1. It doesn't take up a slot. That's the main reason it's in here. And I do play some foreign objects, so evening up the odds. This card is probably one of the more important pre-matches because I burn through my hand very quickly because of all of the aces that I have. So I'm going to eat don't tries. All of my aces have discard effects. So I want to get under 7. Or I'm going to get under 7, so I'm going to be able to fuel it by drawing additional cards. It also allows me to shuffle my deck when I have more than 7 cards. And it keeps my opponent's hand in control and managed. This card is just really good. So at the start of each player's turn, if they have more than 7 cards in their hand, they randomly shuffle 1, shuffle 2 if it's 14 cards in their hand, and then if they have less than 7, they can draw 1. Before any player's draw segment, when both players have 7 cards, it goes away. So you really want to manage cards in your hand, cards in your opponent's hand, and always make sure that you can keep this card live. Master of Promotion. Your opponent chooses one of the following. His starting hand size is -3, and his superstar value is +3 once the game begins. He can only play 1 more pre-match card, and the maximum number of mid-match cards he can have in his ring is increased by 1. Or the maximum number of pre-match cards he may have in his ring area is increased by 1, and you get to look at his Backlash, choose 2 mid-matches, and he discards them. Most often, they will take the -3 hand size. It's the least detrimental effect. But this card is great. I love cards that make your opponent make choices. Speaking of, backed by Mr. McMahon, Throwback. So you can only play it when your superstar value is greater than your opponent's, which we are going to be a 10. Or, sorry, a 9. Yeah, we'll be a 9. And our opponent will be -1. So hopefully we'll be able to play this. And we'll generally try to play this pretty early. because we don't want our opponent to play a belt and then go over top of it with us. But at the end of the pre-match, your opponent picks 3 of the following: discard 2, overturn 7, skip his first turn, play with his hand revealed until the second turn of the match, allows you to draw 2 cards, or concedes and lose the match. Most of the time, your opponent is going to pick overturn 7, because if they reverse the effect of the overturn, the card resolves. It finishes resolving and ends. He doesn't have to pick anymore. I think it's kind of a stupid ruling, but raw deal logic. They will most likely play with their hand revealed and let you draw 2. Those are the 3 common choices that I've made. But all of these choices are good. Like, if they skip their first turn and you get 2 turns, that's really strong. But that's the pre-match. It's pretty straightforward. You don't have a ton of resolving to do. I did miss one thing with First Family of Professional Wrestling. At the end of the pre-match phase, you get to put a non-unique card from your opponent's ring into their ringside. And then as the ace, you get to search for a superstar specific. So you can kill a title belt with managed by Vince McMahon. You can blank a stip. You can kill a non-unique card. So you're really hammering in like power in the pre-match. So into the mid-match, we're packing 3 dirty low blow non-throwbacks. Um, Specifically, one because they're non-unique, so we get to play 3 of them. And the throwback actually ignores this card for the turn, and we don't want that. It doesn't blank it; it ignores it. So these are easier to reverse because of the reversal restriction reversals, but it's better than blanking or ignoring your backstage for the turn. McMahon's $1 Million Mania costs 1 fortitude. Your opponent can't play reversals to it, so the only way they're going to reverse it is either through their superstar ability like FBI, or rules are meant to be broken. And then during each of your turns as an ace, you can put a non-Backlash D0 card from your ring under this card. Your opponent draws 1. Your opponent may draw 1. And then, if it's successful, you get to either draw 2 or shuffle 3. When you have 5 cards under this card, you remove this card from the game and put the cards underneath it at the bottom of your arsenal. So what this lets you do is replay really powerful unique cards, because you can successfully play them, stick them under this card, and then when this card gets to 5, they go back into your arsenal. That's really good. Also lets you replay reversals. McMahon Interruptus. I have used this card mostly as a kill card. Reverses any action if it isn't your opponent's first card played, or reverse any ace if he hasn't successfully played a card this turn. You put 1 card titled No Chance in Hell from your ringside into your hand. He overturns 10 cards. Like, holy smokes. And when one of those cards is a non-hybrid action, he continues his turn. Otherwise, he ends his turn. So if your opponent gets down to 10 or less cards, they can't play an action or ace a card. Like, or you're just going to kill them. Like, this card can just really put a lock on people. It's just a really good card. Phoenix Rising. Because we're always considered to have less fortitude, I'm playing some of these cards like the Dirty Low Blows, Phoenix Rising, because we're always considered to have less. So your opponent may remove 3 reversals from his hand from the game. If he doesn't, you remove 1 pre-match manager card in his ring or ringside from the game, and his reversals to your next card played are plus 30 fortitude. It's a really good card, especially like when you can play it at 7 and you just always have less fortitude. It was a card that I wanted to put in here. Another card that I'm considering putting in here is Backlash, and it really should be in here. I just need to find something to cut for it, because Backlash with Vince just makes sense. Undermine the Competition can only be played after successfully played non-zero fortitude maneuver, and if your fortitude rating is less than your opponent's, and you have fewer cards in here. So I generally get my hand pretty low through my aces. I always have less fortitude. So the maneuver does its normal damage regardless of overturned reversals. So you're going to eat the full damage of the maneuver. But then your opponent puts maneuver cards from his ring into his ringside until his fortitude rating is equal to or less than that maneuver's fortitude rating, and end your opponent's turn. So, this card can blow people out because say your opponent plays a 3 fortitude maneuver. You play this, and say they have like 50 fortitude. You play this, you take the damage, and then they have to remove maneuvers until they have 3 or less fortitude. That's really hard to do because it'll generally get them down to their reversals and permanent cards. This card, like I said, can just blow people out. And because you're always having less fortitude, it's just a no-brainer. Reach exceeds your grasp and restricted use in this area. These are staples. Unscrupulous SOB. We just wanted another ace reversal. Also reverses a non-unique action. Turning everything upside down. We're always considered to have less fortitude, so I'm packing this one, and it's also good as an action. And then sustain damage. We have cards that we want to discard from our hand, like Thrust Knee Lift and stuff like that, so we're playing sustained. It also lets you lead into, they play a maneuver, you sustain it, and then you can turn everything upside down the next maneuver. So that's the Backlash. I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, I do want to put in Backlash itself. I just need to find something to put in for it. So we're going to go into the arsenal. We'll do our reversals first, as we always do. We are packing 3 Revolutions of the Mind. I'm not entirely sure why. I think I made this deck just before the counter reversals came out, or like shortly after, and I was just kind of already, I was still kind of in a Revolution of the Mind kind of thought process. So I think these could be the counter reversals, and in fact I think they should be, because I want to be spinning the reversal to get fortitude. So these should probably just be the counter reversals. 3 get the F-outs, because this is a staple in Virtual, in my opinion. 3 manager interferes, staple in heal decks. The reason that I'm playing Rochester, it's good for business. I've never successfully played this. I've never even attempted to play this as an action. But you can search your arsenal for a non-reversal, put it in your hand. But as a reversal, when overturned, reverse any non-unique maneuver. 2 fortitude. Non-unique. Just keep cycling this card. Hopefully it lets you stay alive. Now in Virtual there are a lot of unique maneuvers, so it doesn't hit as much as it used to. But it's still a great card to have in a sponge deck. 3 no chance in Hells. I thought more than 3 was a bit overkill. It's -6 fortitude for every card titled Don't Cross the Boss in your ring area. Or ringside. And you reverse any action, but then you have to put any number of cards titled Don't Cross the Boss from your ringside in your hand. So, spoiler, Don't Cross the Boss also has that text of -6 fortitude, so this is a 0 fortitude, but you have to pick up the Don't Cross the Boss when you play it. So as long as you have a way to discard it again, you can keep your no chance in Hells at 0 fortitude, which is great. 2 Don't Try This at Homes, just should always have ace reversals. Only 1 Sidewalk Slam. I just couldn't find room for a second one, honestly. Probably should have a second one, but I just didn't have anywhere where I wanted to cut for one. Escape to the Side. This is actually one of the benefits of being able to pack Raw and SmackDown cards, so we get Undermine the Competition and Escape to the Side. You get to discard it as if it were Escape Move or Step Aside, and then overturned, reverse a strike or grapple. So we can keep putting this in with Rochester as well, which is great. Doing the Virtual staple package, Don't Be a Douchebag, Divine Intervention, Carlito, Missed Your Chance, Radio Revolution. I'm packing Get Out of Here. I'm packing Thrust Knee Lift, so I'm gonna try to hopefully have a lot of remove from game cards on my opponent's side. So this can reverse non-trademarks, where a number is equal to the number of remove from game cards on both sides. Also lets you pick up and get the F out. Breaking Ground. I think this should be in most decks. Just because if you see it early, it can really help you bridge fortitude gaps. Master Manipulator. As an action, you look at your opponent's hand and make him discard a card. You get to choose. And then as a reversal, it reverses any non-unique card, and then end your opponent's turn, you search his hand and arsenal for all copies of that card and put them in his ringside. Just a good card. A Dynastys Destiny. This is generally going to be played as a reversal. It's -5 fortitude when played by Vince McMahon. As an action, you get to search for a card and put it in your hand, which is a great action. Just search for any card. As a reversal, reverses any non-trademark finisher card. Also great. Just reverse any card that isn't a trademark. The Chairman's Judgment. When the reverse card is not a setup or follow-up, put it under this card, face up. When your opponent plays an action or antic with the same title as that card, it's blank. So if, you play um, Candace Internet Icon, you can play this, reverse it, and then put it on. And then if your opponent goes to play another one, it's blank. During his turn, he can overturn 3 cards and discard 1, and then put the card under this card into his ringside. So it makes your opponent burn to get the card back, so that their future cards aren't blank. This is a good reversal. I like it. Um, and then I'm Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Damn it. 5 Fortitude reverses any unique card or superstar specific card. I don't think the action effect is worth ever playing it. It's just too good of a reversal, especially because it's a really good reversal to cycle from your deck. Reverse any unique or superstar specific card. There's no reason not to keep trying to spin it. So that's my reversals. It actually is a little lighter on reversals than I normally pack, and I'm packing a lot more actions than I normally do. So let's go ahead and get into our actions. The reason that I know, remember who pays your salary is gross. Comeback Throwback. If this card ever resolves, your opponent probably loses. So you discard a card, and then the player with the highest Fortitude rating puts maneuver cards and reversal cards from his ring area into his ringside until his Fortitude rating is not the highest. Well, your opponent can never have the highest Fortitude rating. Or your opponent can never have the lowest Fortitude rating. So when you play Comeback, they just have to remove all their reversals and maneuvers in their ring and put them in their ringside. Like, this card will blow you out if you get to if this happens to you by Vince. And you get to pack 3 of them. 2 Singapore Canes. Really important because we're playing Extreme Rules match. We ignore that can only be played text. 13 for 3, so it's actually a 9 for 3 because of House that Hardcore built. The next 2 maneuver cards your opponent plays are D0 and considered to have blank text. It is active, so we don't have a way of getting it out of our ring once we successfully play one. But I wanted 2 because I wanted to make sure that I always had one. 2 ring steps. You can ace it, and then your opponent can either reverse the ace or discard step aside. If he doesn't, he discards 5 cards and overturns 10. This is another way to just kill people. And because we play Extreme Rules match, we can keep picking it up and playing it again. But you have to wait a turn because you have to discard 1, overturn 2, and end your turn. But this card can be really powerful. Don't cross the boss. I mentioned earlier. It'll just always be in your ringside or in your hand. You want to keep it in your ringside as much as possible. Hardcore Timekeepers Bell. We ignore that can only play text, and when you successfully play a maneuver, you can put this card into your ringside, and your opponent discards 5 cards. So play this, get it out, and then play a dirty low blow that can't be reversed from your opponent's hand, and just make them discard 5. It's a really powerful effect. McMahon Family Values. You get to shuffle 3 cards removed from the game, or shuffle any number of unique cards and cards with the word McMahon in the title from your ringside into your ring area, or into your arsenal. This card is just a massive heal card, because we play a lot of unique cards, we play McMahon cards, and, as I mentioned with McMahon's $1 Million Mania, we can then put this card underneath McMahon $1 Million Mania, and then play it again later in the game. The Biggest Grapefruits. I don't think I've ever actually successfully played this card, but I figured I'll pack it. So your unique Vince McMahon specific action cards and your cards with Chairman in the title are -6 Fortitude and can only be reversed by unique reversals. And then your opponent's dirty low blow is +5 damage, which is a hilarious line of text that has never been relevant. But you get to search for it, so I figured why not? This probably could get cut. McMahon Intervention. So it requires you to be playing McMahonism. Your opponent can't respond to this card, which is the most powerful line of text in the game. When playing this card and Divine Intervention is in your hand, you can remove Divine from the game. If you do, this card's -20 Fortitude. So if you're really struggling and getting your butt kicked, you can, and you can't get Divine out of your hand, you can remove it from the game, play this at 5, and your opponent can't respond. You get to draw 12, put 8 cards from your hand and up to 8 cards from ringside pile on the bottom of your arsenal. So, and because we have um, McMahonism, if we know we're going to play McMahon Intervention, we don't have to do this during the draw segment, and scry 12, and then do all the other effects. That's really good. We can't kill this card to put on our Million Dollar Mania because it's RMS and permanent, which is a little unfortunate. The inmates aren't running my Asylum. You can only play it when you have less fortitude. You put any number of maneuver cards, of non-maneuver cards from your opponent's ring area into his ringside. So we're doing a lot of ring destruction, a lot of fortitude kill, which is really good. And we can replay this card with Million Dollar Mania. Here comes the Cavalry. It's a great pseudo staple in Virtual because it's got a lot. Having that recursion is really nice. Vengence. When this card's in your ring, when your opponent reverses a maneuver from his hand and you have less fortitude, which you always will, you got to look at his hand, choose a card, and he discards it. So if you can resolve this early, then you can start really picking away at their hand. Commissioner rules Throwback. So you get to look at your opponent's hand, choose a reversal card, and he discards it. When you have lower fortitude, you can discard one and choose 2 reversal cards instead. And then if you're William Regal, the mystery wrestler, a chairman, or a GM, it's multi. When played in Indianapolis, do not discard for this card. I'm not entirely sure why. Then Mr. McMahon's lead pipe shot. At first, I was playing this as a maneuver over and over again because I was like, oh, it's a great way to get fortitude. It's a multi that can only be reversed by 2 reversals. And then I read the action part of it. And the action is, it's -8 fortitude, so it's 0 fortitude. You shuffle this card and 4 other cards from ringside pile into your arsenal, and then your opponent overturns 2. Like, this card's just really, really good. And because of the amount of actions we play, this can cause your opponent to burn through action reversals to where you can play the other ones. So just a lot of mill in this deck, like the ring steps, the lead pipe shot, McMahon Interruptus. You can just really hammer home your opponent milling. Then our maneuvers, we don't run a lot. 3 thrusts Nihilus, these aren't maneuvers. These are strictly here for the effect of if they get overturned or discarded, I can put them to the bottom of my arsenal to remove 2 cards from my opponent's ringside pile from the game randomly. 3 steel chain shots. These let me keep fueling my hand when I play unique cards. They are also very good maneuvers because they have very good aces when they're in the ring to reverse a unique card. And we can keep throwing them. 3 zero tolerance, kiss my magnificent ass. This card's kind of bad, and I probably should take it out. But when you successfully played, you may remove a Fortitude 0 card from your opponent's ring area into his ringside. That's one reason I do like it. And your next card played this turn is -1 Fortitude and +1 damage for every card in your ring area with the word McMahon in the title. So, it's not great, but sure. I'll probably look at cutting it later in the future. Chain Lashing Throwback. We ignore the can only be played text. This card's really good. A 3 for 7 strike that makes your opponent randomly discard 2 Backlash cards. And we can keep throwing it over and over again with Extreme Rules Match. Overhand Chair Shot. It's just a strike multi that doesn't really do much else. I don't even remember what the... reverses any foreign object or card played after roll out of the ring as an ace. I guess that's not terrible against the foreign object mirror, but it's just very hard to make it successful. Garbage Can Lid Throwback. So you can put it in your ringside to reverse a strike or grapple. It's a 6 for 8 for us because of House That Hardcore built, and we can keep playing it. So I really liked it. And then Brass Knuckshot. This is primarily going to be used as a reversal, but we can also use it as a 0 fortitude maneuver. It reverses a high risk. So that is my Vince McMahon deck. Like I said, this is a really spongy kind of deck. It does struggle if your opponent really keeps you off the board. 10 is the magic number. 15 against 15 against playing by the rules. But if you can get to 10, you really this deck really kind of takes off. And I have won games where the only maneuvers that I successfully played were Dirty Low Blow, where I played 3 of them, but I won through the pipe shot, the McMahon Interruptus, and just outlasting my opponent. He had 80 fortitude, and I played comeback, and he went down to 0, or he went down to 6 or something like that, and the game was basically over at that point. So please, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm hopefully back more consistently again. I know I said that the last time, but I really appreciate you guys listening, following, and please leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Reach out to me. Let me know what you guys think of the deck or anything that you would do differently. But until next time, have a great night.